Welcome to Aviation Careers Podcast. My name is Carl Valeri, and I'll be your host today. Today we have a special edition where we're reporting from Sun and Fun 2023. We interviewed Nate Mitich, who was an amazing individual as far as aviation is concerned and as far as inspirational type of story that he had, where he's the one that flew around Florida and traced a Christmas tree during Christmas. Amazing story, but he has a special announcement that he made during Sun and Fun. It's going to be an audio interview, but if you're watching on YouTube, we'll have some really cool video from his tracing the Christmas tree around Florida. But first, real quickly, our sponsor, we have a new sponsor, and that is Aviators Clinic. Aviators Clinic is flight medicine for pilots by pilots. You can use the coupon code Aviators Clinic to get a free scholarships guide. If you're a student pilot preparing for a solo or a veteran crop duster, their goal is to get you into the air and keep you flying. Aviators Clinic understands how nerve-wracking doctors' exams can be. Their goal is to make the process as easy and painless as possible. The Aviators Clinic provides FAA first, second, and third class flight physicals as well as BasicMed exams. For those with color vision issues, they have an Optec 900, an FAA-approved alternative color vision test. Flight physicals are free of charge for student pilots 17 years and younger. Aviators Clinic has 2 convenient locations in Naples and Pompano Beach, Florida. So book your appointment today at aviatorsclinic.com. Also, Aviators Clinic, again, is a sponsor, so they're giving away 50 scholarships guides. Use the coupon code Aviators Clinic. Well, let's get on with the interview from Sun and Fun 2023. And what Nate Mitich is an awesome individual. He and you'll hear in the interview, just a very inspirational aviator and somebody who has some great advice, especially if you're thinking of buying an airplane and using it to build your hours. Let's go to the interview. Well, folks, this is Carl Valeri with Aviation Careers Podcast, reporting for Sun and Fun Radio. And I'm here with somebody really special. And it's really cool what this person did over the state of Florida and also their story as far as their career. Well, Nate, actually, he is the person that flew the Christmas tree over Florida that just went viral, and it was absolutely amazing. So we're going to talk about that first. So Nate, welcome first of all, and what possessed you to do the Christmas tree?
Hi, Carl. Thanks for having me over. I've just got time building to be ready to have enough hours to go for an ATP rating and go to the airlines. This is a mid-career transition, and I was just building time, and I found that I wanted to have something fun to do out over the state, and kind of on just a whim, I decided to design and fly a star out south of Lakeland on a previous flight. That turned out really well, and I got to looking at that thinking, man, this would be fantastic on top of a Christmas tree. So the next couple of flights, I just started planning it out, plotting some points, looking at the airspace, watching the traffic patterns, waiting for a clear night so that I wouldn't have to necessarily maneuver around other VFR traffic, and put a plan together, had a good evening to go, and I flew the Christmas tree. I think it was middle of December, somewhere around, but at the 15th, somewhere between the 15th and the 20th.
So the reason that we're talking now is that the local news station picked this up here in Lakeland, Florida, where I live, and I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. But when I saw you talk, I was like, I've got to get you on the show because you have a really inspirational story. Before we talk about that, I was wondering, how did you plan that route? How did you actually put that into the GPS?
Well, I just put it on ForeFlight, and the ForeFlight has got a feature where you can kind of hand draw. So I took the Apple Pencil and just started drawing out what I thought I might want and then figuring out coordinates from there. And it's not enough just to draw a shape. Now you got to start doing the flight planning involved. Okay, if I'm going to make this tree 350 miles long, fuel planning comes a consideration. What are all my divert should I need it? I'm south somewhere down there and I need to get down quick. So I kind of started planning around the normal flight planning considerations, where the tall tower's at. As I was drawing this out, I was taking all that into account to make sure that this was just like any other cross-country flight. It's just this one's going to be kind of local. Mostly on ForeFlight, and then I would convert those points and start doing some math to make sure it was very symmetrical. So you look at that design, and I mean, it looks pretty tight. Then I have an old Garmin 530 WAS, and there's not a way to transfer those waypoints. So you do the turn buttons. Right. So then it was a couple of flights of just programming waypoints into the 530 of one click at a time on the little rotary dial. It took That took a little while, probably at least a couple hours of programming on the 530. I wanted to be sure I could draw straight lines and have that on there, accurately.
Well, it worked out really well. And I tell you what, it was quite inspirational when I saw that. I was like, oh my God, that is the coolest thing. But the reason that you did this, people are like, well, that's a lot of time that you spent in there. Why did you do that? I mean, there's two reasons, right? To do something inspirational, but also...
Well, 1,500 hours is required for a ATP rating. And that takes a lot of commitment for folks that are building time. I'm a flight instructor, so there's some flight instructing time in the logbook, but some of it's just getting in an airplane and flying. And, you just got to commit to it. And I thought, if I'm just going to be up here doing something, I want to have something to show for it. This turned out to be one of those fun little things that I can, have on there. It was for fun, but also it all counted. That's all time.
So the reason you're getting to 1,500 hours, we're going to talk about your career. You've had a really great career in the Navy, but now you've changed to aviation. So tell us a little bit about that process, because it sounds like you had to take a big leap into this career in aviation.
Well, I'll tell you, and it was a big risk. Mid-career, so I just retired after 22 years of naval service. I enlisted right out of high school in 2001. And I joined the military with the intention of becoming a pilot. The whole time, I applied to academies, was not accepted, and I wanted to start working on a career in the Navy. So I enlisted, and then I got picked up for a commissioning program a few years later called Seaman to Admiral. Fantastic program. You get to stay on active duty, go to a ROTC unit. I went to the University of Colorado, and I was selected as a student naval aviator. In fact, I signed an agreement with the program that I would not be considered for any other commissioning options. As I got closer to commissioning, I actually failed an eye exam for my flight physical, and I was devastated. Then because I had signed this agreement that I could only be a pilot, they said I could go back out to sea. In my prior enlisted rating, I was a machinist mate working on the nuclear propulsion plants. So I asked, is there anything I can do? I've worked so hard. I'd like to commission. And they offered that I could go into the nuclear propulsion program if I passed an interview with the admiral of the program. So I went to D.C., and I interviewed and got accepted to the program, and I became a surface nuclear warfare officer, a surface warfare officer with a nuclear subspecialty. And as that career kind of took off, I kind of just packed away my dream of becoming a pilot and decided this is, what happened. I just don't have enough eyesight to be a pilot. Didn't realize that the FAA had different standards than the military. So, I wear contacts, and it wasn't until much later in my career that I kind of started looking into this. And it was actually a friend of mine, a mutual friend of another pilot that you were able to meet with the other day that, hey, no, man, you just got to have corrected vision. So that's what kind of triggered, maybe I can still do this. And as I got into looking into it, there was a flying club in Millington, Tennessee, where I was stationed at the Navy Personnel Command, and just started flying at the Navy Flying Club in Millington, Tennessee, and started earning ratings, private pilot. And then I thought, I got to have an instrument rating. And it didn't take long. I bought an airplane when COVID hit. The flight school shut down. I thought, I can't wait. This is what I want to do. And so I pursued it by purchasing an airplane and flying a lot.
So you went the route of purchasing a plane and flying a lot as opposed to instructing a lot. Which one did you get more hours from?
I got more hours from flying my plane. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but at the time, the flying club had shut down. I would not have been able to progress through training at the Navy Flying Club. There was a period of at least 6 months, I think. And during that period of time, I was still able to fly with my instructor in my plane. And I earned certificates and time doing that. But the other problem, moving around a lot through 2 different tours in the Navy, just getting set up at a new flight school and establishing students, I ran into some trouble with that. I got a few students in Charlottesville, Virginia, kind of on their way to their check rides, and now I have to come to Florida. Took a while to find some students down here in Lakeland. But the whole time I was able to just keep flying my plane, which was a huge help.
Would you recommend it to somebody to buy their own airplane? What are the advantages and disadvantages?
Well, aircraft ownership is a whole nother beast. I will say this. If folks have an intention of becoming a professional pilot and really don't want to be a flight instructor, it can be a lot of fun. Just be ready to, you better have deep pockets, because it's like, batteries, we're not talking a car battery, $100 at AC Delco. you got tires. The maintenance requirements of keeping an airplane, and you have to keep it in top condition. There were a few times where I got the kind of my wife, hey, what are you spending more money on the plane again? She's been on board with this the whole time. I don't want to leave the wrong impression. It's just, it's a very expensive way to get the time, but it was a very consistent way to keep flying. I also think there's some people who probably shouldn't be instructors, and they go that route because they want to be an airline pilot. And I kind of discourage that a little bit. I don't want to talk down on anybody out might be in that position. Mm-hmm. But I do think being an instructor has a special place of trust in the aviation community. And I think if you don't enjoy teaching people how to fly and you dread doing it, buy an airplane or rent an airplane or go in and buy a plane with a few friends, because instructing that's a special kind of thing to do. And those first couple hours with a new private pilot student that has no other aviation experience is always a very entertaining sort of, you got to really drag yourself to the plane sometimes. But I really thoroughly enjoy instructing. So in that case, I maybe could have pushed a little harder early on to get an instructor certificate and just get hours that way. But I'm a full-time naval officer at the same time. So I would a lot of times get up in the morning, get to the airport about 6, go on an early flight, change into my uniform, go into work all day, and then 2 or 3 flights in the afternoon after work with students. And that was, you're working 2 full-time jobs at that point. So having my own plane allowed me to, on the weekend, I'm going to go take a long cross-country, build some cross-country time. Instructors don't get as much cross-country time, it turns out. And that's a requirement under the FAR to get an airline transport pilot certificate. So, you got to kind of weigh the benefits of each. The disadvantage, of course, is when that plane comes down for maintenance, you don't just hand the keys back to the flight school director and ask the maintenance department to fix it. You are the maintenance department. And so it's fun, though. I would be happy to talk to anyone interested in buying a plane for time building.
So you said you were building time towards your ATP, but the airlines have multi-engine aircraft. So now you have this other expense of getting your multi. So how did you navigate that?
Well, I just paid for a multi-engine rating at a different flight school. So our flight school didn't have a multi. Got the rating, but through a mutual friend, was introduced to a pilot who managed a Citation. And because I had commercial multi-engine, said he could help me out. I flew right seat in the Citation with him for a little while, and then the plan was get out of the Navy, get ATP, and then work with him and eventually become the captain on the Citation through a full formal training cycle. But aircraft ownership for other people that own planes is what it is, and they, owner wants to upgrade jets, and I'm not qualified for the one they're flying. So, all right, back to the drawing board. But a fantastic opportunity, and flying with that pilot, I learned a lot about high altitude operations and a little bit of turbine time.
Absolutely. And going back to your airplane, I think another good thing, the advantage is you got a lot of cross-country time working in the system, which I think was a big help, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I tell everyone, you get an instrument rating, file and fly all the time. And some folks around here, it's a great place to fly VFR, but it's also very congested airspace. So, I've got a lot of time flying clear blue skies, but in the system. And I think that process of filing a flight plan, learning the routes, understanding your place in the airspace, what calls am I expecting? There's a lot of work involved. Some people balk at that and say, I like to just fly direct. Well, I tell you, I get direct routing a lot under IFR too. And the system's getting more efficient, but boy, it's just I would recommend that to anybody. It's the same as flight following. Well, no, it's not the same. I'd be happy to talk about the differences. You're talking to the same people, but the process is different. So I learned a lot. And honestly, that experience flying cross-country IFR for hundreds of hours, I'm able to teach my students, okay, here's kind of some things to look out for. Make sure you can pair your headset to your phone, for example. You get to a remote field, nice Bose headset or your Zulu light speeds or whatever. Hey, make sure you can get Bluetooth so you can make that phone call real easy with the engine turning, and while you're doing your run-up, get your clearance. Just here's how that system works, and those experiences have been invaluable, I think, in working in the system.
Yeah, the experience in the system, I think, is invaluable, and I think that's terrific that you mentioned that. one thing, let's move on now to your career. And you wanted to become an airline pilot now. And one thing that's important is networking and finding people that are going to hire you, right? So you actually are in a great place here in Lakeland, Florida. And big hats off to Sun and Fun for continuing to do the career fair, which actually sponsored by JS Firm and also some other folks, Piedmont Airlines, et cetera. Would you recommend people coming to an air show like this, specifically Sun and Fun, and going to that career fair?
Absolutely. And if you're not doing that, if you think you're going to just send out applications on airline apps or go on the web pages, there is a process and you may get hired. I think it's far more likely that you come here and you meet somebody at one of these air shows, not only at the career fair tent, but just out and around meeting a lot of professional pilots that, nice thing about a professional pilot career, there's time to do other things. And we're all just normal people and we all kind of want to help. I've found that I've got connections now in this community in the career that, any number of airlines and people that are offering advice. What is this airline like? What are these bases like? What's it like when you're commuting as a junior first officer at a regional, for example? And that's where I'm at. And we actually, my wife and kids are in Texas. She took a job out in Fort Worth, but I said, babe, I need to stay behind because of this career fair. So I stayed. I'm volunteering here with one of the volunteer groups, but mostly because I wanted to go to the career fair. And I was able to get an interview and got hired with one of the regional airlines here. So shout out to SkyWest and their fantastic ability to flex to the situation, get a interview with their pilots down here. That went really well. And the next day had a job offer in hand. So that definitely paid off to stay. But it also, the airline did a great job, in my opinion, of turning through some paperwork because here's an opportunity.
Yeah, you are a testament to why we have these job fairs and these career fairs here at these air shows. Because for the recruiters, there's pilots at these shows, and the company I work for, we came here and just knocked it out of the park because aviators love airplanes, they love air shows, we love little planes and all different things to do with aviation, T-shirts, etc. The cool thing is, and by the way, first of all, congratulations on that new hire at the airline. That's really, really exciting news. But to actually come here and walk out the door with a job, and I see it happen over and over and over again, and so many people are skeptical of it, I tell them, please just come to the show. What else could you say to motivate someone to get out here?
Well, it's just fun. I mean, if you've never been to a big show like this is Christmas for pilots. Just the variety of flying you get to see. That fireworks show last night was just over the top. The talent that you get to watch and be inspired by what we all kind of, I just remember being a kid going to an air show, and here you are at one of the biggest ones. Even if you're not here for a career fair, or if it seems like it's a long way off, you got maybe 200-300 hours in the logbook, walking through the career fair tent, what is it going to take? There are people offering jobs to pilots at the 500-hour range. If you got a commercial single or multi-engine, that might change your strategy a little bit on how am I going to craft my career to get to where I want to go. Maybe it's not airlines. Maybe it's Part 135, and you don't know those opportunities are out there till you get a chance to walk around and see. There are folks here, I know a couple of different general aviation manufacturers that need certified instructors. If you want to teach somebody how to fly a Cirrus, well, you don't have to be a multi-engine ATP necessarily to do that. And Cirrus has got a program they want to have instructors. There are probably more job opportunities here for folks that are in different spots in their aviation journey. They don't know exactly what they want, and you get to see all the options, and maybe there's one that clicks. There are a lot of entrepreneurs here that have got various products solving problems that pilots face. Maybe you're the entrepreneurial type and you love aviation. You may not want to go fly, but there might be something here that sparks an interest in, hey, I see this guy's got a product, I could make something better. Or there's nobody here selling this widget to help with the hangar, and I'm going to build that and sell 1 million of these next year when I come out here. Maybe it's just you have a hobby. Well, there's a hobby tent and you want to fly RC planes and be around other aviators. Maybe you're just a food person, a foodie, and you can come and enjoy the good food. But more than any of that, I think we come here and we volunteer and we pay into these things because we see there's a generation of young aviators over at the school that we know this money goes to help support their aspirations. And how many folks I've talked to, they were over at the flight school where I was instructing, would come over with this scholarship. Unbelievable. Like, you get paid private pilot and instrument, and they're, 14, 15 years old, what I would have loved to have that when I was their age, to somebody say, I'm not only going to take you by the hand and show you how to do this, I'm going to give you money to do it, was a big barrier for me as a teenager. And to see that we've kind of been able to remove that through it's a revenue source that goes to helping a generation of the next generation of aviators. And I think that makes it easier for all of us to just get on board, volunteer and slinging trash or whatever we're doing to make sure this goes well. And it's a good show.
Nate, I think next year, I know you're with the Raiders. The Raiders are the people that keep the park clean here and keep the show clean. And those are the folks that pick up the trash. I think what they need to do is have you volunteer as a spokesperson for Sun and Fun next year, because you hit on all the points here as far as why we do this. It's really inspiring and enabling the next generation of aviators. And I really appreciate that you've actually taken the time to talk to us today about that, because someone's going to hear this and they're going to be inspired to take it to the next level.
Well, and I think, too, if there is somebody out there that is in a career that they maybe aren't happy with and think, I would really like to be a pilot. I was 38 years old when I started flight training, and it's not just for 15-year-olds. It's not just for 40 or 50-year-olds. If you've got a love of aviation, there are plenty of flight schools out there. And really, if you're wanting to be a professional aviator, there's plenty of demand moving forward. I think the numbers speak for themselves. Even if there's a recession and another furlough cycle, there's still insufficient supply of pilots to keep up. So I tell people a lot of times my journey has felt like a poker player pushing all the chips to the middle of the table. I'm all in. I've spent a lot of money on an airplane and flight time and everything else. But to me, it just seems like it made sense. This is what I want to do. The career is a stable career. It's a good and a rewarding career. And there's probably somebody out there thinking, there's no way. This guy did it, but it's not for me. I disagree. You can do it, and I'd be happy to help you do it. There's a lot of people who'd be happy to help you. But you just got to kind of decide why you want to do it. And if you just want to fly on the weekends, there's a spot for you. If you want to fly every day professionally, there's a spot for you. It's a lot of work, but you can do it. It can be done.
And you did it, and hats off to you for that. First of all, congratulations on your retirement, Lieutenant Commander Nate Mitich from the Navy, and congratulations on the new hire. And I really hope you'll come back next year and talk to those folks that are thinking about making the switch, especially folks that are mid-career changers like yourself.
I'd be happy to be back. I'll probably stick with the Raiders. That's fun, slinging trash. What a great group of volunteers. But I'll be happy to speak with you next year while we're down.
Yeah, the Raiders, without them, this whole park here and this whole area and the air show would never be as clean as it is. Nate Mitich is really somebody who's a great advocate for aviation, an ambassador for those that are either changing careers, but also for those that are just getting started. You can do everything right here on the campus of Sun and Fun. Go to flysnf.org and you can find out more about everything. This is a big fundraiser, by the way, and that is why we're here for this show, is to raise money for ACE. ACE is the Aerospace Center for Excellence, and that's what happens all year long, what he just talked about. When we talked about the going out for the scholarships, the high school that's out here, all the different programs that they have are funded by this one fundraiser. So if you want to come and enjoy the show, remember what you're doing is you are actually contributing to those people moving forward. Nate, again, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carl. Appreciate it.
This is Carl Valeri reporting for Sun and Fun Radio and Aviation Careers Podcast. And don't forget to take one step today to move forward in your career, in your life, and that might be coming here to Sun and Fun next year. Well, I hope you enjoyed that inspirational interview and all the other interviews that we've brought to you from Sun and Fun. By the way, I forgot to mention liveatc.net/SNF. You can listen to all the interviews all year long that we've done at Sun and Fun. Remember, that's our big one where we actually volunteer every year. And I had so much fun. We're going to do that again this year. We actually had a big banner up where we had everybody walking in front of the banner and getting a picture taken with Aviation Careers Podcast banner in the background. It was just so wonderful to get with people and visit. I think we're going to actually have a booth next year because it was so nice to see everybody there at the Sun and Fun show. But most importantly, from Nate's his interview, the one important thing to remember is to get out there and network and be with people. But I think really, really importantly, and something I say every time, and he reiterated, is that you need to do something every day to move forward in your career. When this podcast is over, when this video ends, don't stop there. It could be something as simple as writing down your goals or writing a note as to what to do next. But you know what? If you do that, I know that you will actually obtain your career goal. So don't forget to take one step today to move forward with your career and your life. Well, we'll talk to you next episode. Safe flying out there.